Namaskar viewers, good evening. Welcome to Sansad TV. It's 9 p.m. time for the news with me, Rajiv Kumar Singh. Over the next half an hour, we will take you through the day's top national and international stories. Let us begin with the headlines. Prime Minister inaugurates projects worth 1,800 crore in Varanasi, calls national education policy the foundation for the generation of tomorrow. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar meets the Chinese counterpart in Indonesia, emphasizes need to resolve pending issues between the two nations, including border dispute. Bilateral talks held with counterparts of Indonesia, Argentina on the sidelines of G20 summit. Government announces curbs on exports of wheat flour from July 12th. Decision to apply maida semolina as well. Torrential rains in many states, unrelenting downpour for the last 4 days disrupts local train services in Mumbai. Boris Johnson steps down as British Prime Minister, will officiate as Prime Minister till a new leader is elected. Let us now look at some other important news of the day in our flash segment. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to brief Parliamentary Consultative Committee on Defence on Agnipath scheme on 11th of July. Defence Secretary, 3 service chiefs likely to be present at the briefing. Former Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant to be the new Sherpa of G20. With the G20 presidency coming to India, Kant replaces Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal as a full-time Sherpa. Women and Child Development Ministry issues guidelines for Mission Vatsalya scheme. Mission Vatsalya aims to secure a healthy childhood for every child in the country. Union Minister Smriti Irani gets additional charge of minority affairs. Jyotiraditya Scindia gets Steel Ministry. Developments triggered by resignation of Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and RCP Singh. Prime Minister Modi to attend first Arun Jaitley Memorial Lecture organized by Department of Economic Affairs on Friday in New Delhi. Environment, Forest and Climate Change Ministry to organize Hariyali Mahotsav in New Delhi on Friday. Plantation drives to be organized with 75 Nagarvans, 75 police stations and 75 schools in Delhi NCR. Central Bureau of Investigation arrests Executive Director of Power Grid Corporation of India and 5 senior Tata Projects officials on bribery charges. After spending nearly a day in the dark, NASA's capstone mission restores communications. Spacecraft looking happy and healthy, says NASA. 6th Deputy NSA level meeting of Colombo Security Conclave held in Kochi, India. Maldives, Sri Lanka and Mauritius take part in the meeting. Tunisian Ons Jabeur becomes first Arab woman to reach a Grand Slam final, beats Tatiana Maria in Wimbledon women's singles semi-final. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the British education system only meant to create a servant class for meeting their own needs in India. He said that the new education policy aims to elevate education from the narrow mindsets and link it to modern ideas. Addressing a summit in Varanasi on the implementation of the national education policy, Prime Minister Modi said it seeks to link skills and education to the future requirements of the 21st century. He asserted that the system should not just produce degree holders but provide human resources needed to take the country forward.
मुझे पूरा विश्वास है आने वाले समय में भारत दुनिया में वैश्विक शिक्षा का एक बड़ा केंद्र बनकर उभर सकता है। भारत न केवल दुनिया के युवाओं के लिए एजुकेशन डेस्टिनेशन बन सकता है, बल्कि दुनिया के देशों में भी हमारे युवाओं के लिए नए अवसर बन सकते हैं।
Earlier, the Prime Minister inaugurated Akshay Patra Midday Meal Kitchen in Varanasi. The automatic kitchen will cater to around 150 government schools and has the capacity of cooking midday meals for around 1 lakh students. The Prime Minister inspected the mega kitchen and interacted with the students. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said the meaning of development is empowerment of the poor, deprived and scheduled caste, scheduled tribe communities. Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the laid foundation stone of projects worth rupees 1,774 crore in Varanasi on Thursday. The projects range from sectors like education to roads, railways and tourism, among others. Prime Minister Modi said that Varanasi has given the message that shortcuts can't do well for the nation. He said that the government has always worked for the welfare of the poor.
यहाँ काशी में ही कैंसर के इलाज से लेकर तमाम बीमारियों के आधुनिक इलाज का कितना बड़ा नेटवर्क तैयार किया गया है। काशी में जो स्टेडियम बन रहा है वो अब काशी को नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाने वाला है। यहाँ के अखाड़े कसरत और कुश्ती से फिटनेस के लिए प्रोत्साहन देने हैं।
The Jammu and Kashmir administration has established a decisive domination over terrorism. Union Home Minister Amit Shah said on Thursday that under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Jammu and Kashmir is on the path of peace and development. Amit Shah said that after unveiling the statue of peace of philosopher and social reformer Ramanujacharya in Srinagar.
इतनी विशाल उनकी शांति प्रतिमा का प्रस्थापन जीआर स्वामी के द्वारा किया गया है। ये न केवल कश्मीर, पूरे भारत के अंदर शांति का एक संदेश देगा।
India on Thursday called for an early resolution of all outstanding issues along the line of control, actual control with China in eastern Ladakh. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a bilateral meeting with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Bali on the sidelines of the G20 foreign ministers meeting. During the meet, Jaishankar asserted that bilateral ties between the two nations should be based on mutual respect, mutual sensitivity and mutual interest. The minister reiterated the need to sustain the momentum to complete disengagement from all the remaining areas to restore peace and tranquility in the border areas. Both leaders also discussed the vexed issue of the return of Indian students to China and the resumption of direct flights between the two countries. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held talks with European Union Foreign Affairs Chief Joseph Borrell. The talks focused on impact of the Ukraine crisis and resumption of negotiations between India and EU for a long-pending free trade pact. The meeting took place in Bali on the sidelines of a conclave of foreign ministers of the G20 nations. Jaishankar and Borrell also discussed the global food and energy crisis triggered by Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine is a major producer of wheat and the halt on its exports has resulted in its shortage. The decision by the West to reduce dependency on Russian fossil fuel has put a strain on the global energy market. Jaishankar also held bilateral talks with his counterparts from Indonesia, Mexico, Argentina, South Africa and Senegal on the sidelines of the G20 conclave in Bali. The External Affairs Minister also met Fijian Prime Minister Frank Bainimarana and reviewed implementation of India's development projects in Fiji. Jaishankar said India supports the Indonesian presidency of G20. Heavy rains have affected normal life in many states, including Karnataka. Rivers and reservoirs in the coastal areas of the state have crossed the danger mark, while agriculture, fields and low-lying areas are submerged. 3 people died in landslides in Kodagu and Dakshin Kannada districts. The Meteorological Department has issued a rain alert for the next 4 days in the state. The administration has shut down schools and colleges. Neighboring Kerala is also having rains for the last 24 hours. Incessant rains affected traffic in many districts and submerged many areas. In Kannur, several houses have been damaged. The meteorological department has predicted heavy rains in many parts of the state for the next 2 days. Maharashtra has seen rains for the last 4 days. The weather department has issued an orange alert till July 10th for many areas, including Mumbai. Many areas in the state are submerged. Waterlogging has also occurred around the residence of Chief Minister Eknath Shinde. The meteorological department has issued a red alert in Raigad, Ratnagiri and Sindhudurg till July 9th and a red alert till July 8th in Palghar, Pune, Kolhapur and Satara. Mumbai and Thane have an orange alert till July 10th. The flood situation has improved in Assam, but more than 9 lakh people in 15 districts are still displaced by the floods. About 5,70,000 people affected in Kachar district, while about 1,89,000 people are still displaced in Nagaon. 186 people have lost their lives due to the floods in the state. Now let us look at some stories from the world of business and economy. Clarifying on the 50 rupee hike in LPG cylinder prices, Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas has said gas prices cannot be looked at in isolation, but in the context of the soaring global energy rates in view of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Puri said India did not face any shortage of fuel supply despite relying on imports to meet up to 85% of its oil requirements. The government announced restrictions on exports of wheat, flour, maida and rava in a bid to contain price rise. Exporters of these commodities will now need to seek approval of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Export of Wheat Flour for the shipments from 12th of July onwards. The ED on Thursday carried out searches at 48 locations across the country belonging to Vivo Mobiles India Private Limited and its 23 associated companies. They reportedly seized balance of rupees 465 crore lying in 119 bank accounts, according to reports. Employees of Vivo India, including some Chinese nationals, did not cooperate with the search proceedings. Struggling amidst a weakening economy, nearly 230,000 Americans applied for unemployment benefits, the highest in 6 months, while electric car maker Tesla had earlier declared that it was cutting 10% of its salaried workforce. Entertainment giant Netflix also laid off several employees in June, reflecting a strained post-pandemic economy. Benchmark BSE Sensex added 500 points, while NSE 50 added 150 points, with several stocks in small and mid-cap space registering gains. Titan, Tata Steel and L&T were the top gainers, while Dr. Reddy's was among the top losers of the day. Global markets were also in a buoyant mood on Thursday as Nasdaq, Taiwan Nikkei 225 and Kospi registered big gains, while American and European stocks rose to nearly 2%. Asian markets gained nearly 3%. "71 million more people around the world are experiencing poverty as a result of soaring food and energy prices after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A United Nations Development Program reported says that 51.6 million more people fell into poverty in the first 3 months after the war, pushing the number of poor to 9% of the world's population. In low-income countries, families spend 42% household incomes on food. After Western sanctions on Russia, the fuel and staple food item price soared. The UNDP noted that 125 million people experienced poverty in over 18 months during the pandemic's closures. 71 million more were added to these numbers in just 3 months after Russia invaded Ukraine in late February. Haiti, Argentina, Egypt, Iraq, Turkey, Philippines, Rwanda, Sudan, Kenya, Sri Lanka and Uzbekistan are the hardest hit. It's time for a short break here. On the other side, a grim reminder by WHO. COVID-19 cases increased 30% globally in the past 2 weeks.
We will talk about Panchakanya or Panchasati. We will understand who these individuals were. We will learn a little bit about their stories.
Whether Ahalya's punishment was fair? Of course it was not. From Ahalya, the capacity to feel, to react is taken, and she is supposed to be detached. And that detachment was what Gautam was seeking. So all the penance of all his life, the fruits were left to Ahalya, and Gautam goes away without realizing what he had discarded. This has been the traditional journey of femininity, not only in India, across the world. Women tried to find happiness in whatever was available, just because they didn't want to stay unhappy, and that was a very strong choice.
डॉक्टर विवेक देबरॉय के साथ इतिहास में इस बार देखिए पंचकन्या पवित्रता की शक्ति, आज रात 9:30 बजे सिर्फ संसद टीवी पर।
Welcome back. Time now for all the main developments from the Russia-Ukraine war front. Russian raids continue to bombard Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region in order to gain control over the Donbas. Sloviansk was targeted with multiple rocket launch systems on Thursday morning. The city's mayor, Vadim Layak, said, urging the residents not to leave their houses. In Kramatorsk, at least one person was killed and several wounded in the Russian raid. Sloviansk Mayor Vadim Layak said civilians are being evacuated from the flashpoint eastern city of Sloviansk as Russian forces continued their relentless offensive. He said that 23,000 people out of a pre-war population of 110,000 have yet to leave. However, he added that people are being bussed out every day. Russia's defense ministry claimed a Russian warplane struck Ukraine's Snake Island in the Black Sea overnight. The strike took place shortly after Ukrainian troops claimed to have raised their flag over the island. Russian forces had earlier withdrew on 30th of June after coming under a heavy bombardment from Ukrainian artillery. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky asserted that Ukrainian forces were finally beginning to feel the impact of Western-supplied artillery. He said that the weapons allowed his country's forces to hit targets accurately and were inflicting damage on the Russian troops. He also stated that the Ukrainian forces were advancing on several Russian defensive lines in occupied territories in the country. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong has urged China to exert its influence on Russia to hold the war in Ukraine. In a speech in Singapore on Wednesday night, Wong said the world is now looking at Beijing's actions in relation to Ukraine. Time now for some other global updates. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Thursday finally agreed to step down as the Conservative Party leader. The decision ends an unprecedented political crisis, triggering an election for a Tory leader who will replace him as the new Premier.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Thursday resigned, ending an unprecedented political crisis that has paralysed Britain's government. Johnson, who had earlier rebuffed calls by his cabinet to step down, gave in after over 40 ministers quit his government. 58-year-old Johnson will remain in charge at 10 Downing Street until the process of electing a new leader is completed by the time of the Conservative Party conference scheduled for October.
I want to thank you, the British public, for the immense privilege that you have given me. And I want you to know that from now on until the new Prime Minister is in place, your interests will be served and the government of the country will be carried on.
The tipping point for his decision to leave the top post seemed to be a public letter written by his newly appointed Chancellor calling for him to go now. The letter capped days of changing messages from Downing Street over the hiring and handling of the now suspended Chris Pincher. Pincher quit as Deputy Chief Whip in charge of Tory party discipline last week. Johnson barely survived a no-confidence vote last month over the Partygate scandal of COVID law-breaking parties in Downing Street. Johnson's resignation is expected to trigger a fierce leadership battle within the Conservative Party. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
The World Health Organization said on Wednesday that COVID-19 cases globally had increased nearly 30% over the past 2 weeks.
Click the button.
Speaking in Geneva, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus explained that 4 out of 6 of the WHO sub-regions saw cases increase in the last week. He said in Europe and America, BA.4 and BA.5 were driving a surge in cases, while a new sublineage of BA.2.75 has been detected in India. Tedros also said the organization was concerned by the scale and spread of monkeypox, saying there had been 6,000 cases recorded in 58 countries.
On monkeypox, I continue to be concerned by the scale and spread of the virus. Across the world, there has now been more than 6,000 cases recorded in 58 countries. Testing remains a challenge, and it's highly probable that there are a significant number of cases not being picked up. Europe is the current epicenter of the outbreak, recording more than 80% of cases globally. In Africa, cases are appearing in countries not previously affected, and record numbers are being recorded in places which have previous experience with monkeypox.
Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And in other news from across the world, Hong Kong has announced that it is shelving a COVID-19 measure that has resulted in dozens of cancelled flights in recent months and thwarted travel plans for thousands. Previously, a 5-day flight route ban was imposed on airlines if at least 5 passengers or 5% of travelers, whichever is higher, tested positive for the coronavirus on arrival. That caused about 100 flights cancellations since the beginning of the year. In Japan, ahead of July 10th parliamentary elections, nearly a dozen opposition parties are trying to topple Japan's Liberal Democratic Party. LDP has ruled almost without interruption since the end of World War II. They include a party whose sole platform is a call to boycott public broadcaster NHK, and a party whose leader says he will turn politics into entertainment for young people. However, voters seem to prefer the stability of the LDP. Thousands marched for a 5th consecutive night on Wednesday, protesting a proposal aiming to break a deadlock in North Macedonia's efforts to join the European Union. Limited violence broke out when a group of people threw stones, chairs and bottles at the protesters, while a 40-year-old man was detained after firing a gun in the air as protesters marched to the Foreign Ministry. Police said no injuries were reported. The World Food Programme, in its latest report, said that 6.26 million people in Sri Lanka are food insecure. WFP further said it targets 3 million people to receive emergency food, nutrition and school meals until December. The statement said that 3 in 10 food insecure households are severely food insecure, and 65,600 of the total 2 lakh food insecure households are using emergency livelihood coping strategies. Pilgrims gathered for dawn prayers and performed the initial rites of the Hajj on Thursday in Saudi Arabia's holy city of Mecca. Since the coronavirus pandemic upended the event, this year's Hajj is largely larger than the pared down versions staged in 2020 and 2021, but it is still smaller than those held before the pandemic. A new hybrid battery storage system is going online to help provide power for a brand new electric vehicle charging station, the largest of its kind in the United Kingdom. The state-of-the-art batteries at the Energy Super Hub can hold enough charge to power the equivalent of 139,000 homes in an hour.
This new electric vehicle charging hub provides charging spots for 42 electric vehicles. They include the world's very fastest charging stations that can recharge an EV in less than half an hour. The new facility is based at Redbridge in Oxford. It is part of the UK's national grid that has new infrastructure to cope with the unique power demands of EVs. Oxford's Energy Super Hub has 2 types of battery stacks. The first is vanadium flow batteries. They provide less power but don't decompose easily. Moreover, they are suitable for managing peak demand in the power grid. The second type is the lithium-ion batteries like those in laptops or electric vehicles. Vanadium flow batteries provide 10 times the power output but have a limited lifespan. Lithium-ion battery containers require air conditioning units to keep the batteries cool and prevent fires. The hybrid battery solution combines the vanadium flow batteries and lithium batteries, which help to deal with the uneven demand for electricity and peak hour power spikes. In some locations, hydroelectric dams are used as giant water batteries, but these large sites are not suitable for every location. The Energy Super Hub, on the other hand, is contained within a site the size of 2 football pitches. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Time now for all the sporting action. In badminton, PV Sindhu has reached the quarterfinals of the Indonesia Masters. In the second round, 7th seed Sindhu defeated China's Zhang Yiman in straight games 21-12, 21-10. In the men's singles draw of Malaysian Masters, HS Prannoy too has reached the quarterfinals. In the second round, Prannoy defeated Wang Zhu Wei of Chinese Taipei 21-19, 21-16. In cricket, India are taking on England in the first T20 international to be played at Southampton today. Captain Rohit Sharma is expected to return for the Indian side. Indian women defeated Sri Lanka in the third ODI by 39 runs. With this, India swept the ODI series 3-0. Batting first, India scored 255 for 9. Captain Harmanpreet Kaur scored 75. In reply, Sri Lanka were bowled out for 216. Rajeshwari Gaikwad took 3 wickets. In tennis, Sania Mirza and her Croatian partner Mati Pavic lost in the semi-finals of the mixed doubles event at Wimbledon. The Indo-Croatian pair lost 6-4, 5-7, 4-6 to defending champions Neil Skupski and Desiree Kravazic. That's all we have in today's news. For more updates, keep watching Sansad TV. Good night.